If you've been shooting for a while, you already know what dry fire training is. And if you haven't been shooting for a while, dry fire training is using an unarmed firearm to practice your reps and build specific skill sets. But there's a big challenge for people who dry fire practice, and that is, how do you make it more realistic? So if you've been wondering how to make your dry fire training more realistic, I'm going to share 5 ways to do so in this video. All right, welcome back. I'm Miles at Tactical Hyve, and I'm going to share 5 ways you can make your dry fire training more realistic. The first tip is to perform your dry fire reps as if you were shooting live ammo. When you're shooting live ammo, you naturally are going to be gripping this gun harder with good pressure consistent throughout the pistol grip, or even if you were shooting a rifle. When a lot of people dry fire, they tend to let up on that pressure. The grip pressures are not the same as if they were shooting live ammo. So you want to make sure that when you are doing your dry fire reps, you're holding your firearm exactly as you would a live firearm. If you don't do so, what's going to happen is during your dry fire sessions, you'll think everything is fine, but you have a really light grip. So when you start shooting live rounds, your performance is not going to be great. And some will say those are wasted reps during your dry fire training. So make sure you perform all your reps as if you were shooting live ammo. The second tip is to use dummy rounds. Now there are 2 types of dummy rounds. You have plastic ones, and then you have actual projectiles, actual bullets that you can add to brass. So the weight is practically the same as a real round. And these are the dummy rounds I'm referring to for this particular video. These plastic dummy rounds are still very good, but for this video, to mimic the exact weight of an actual round, you want to have a bullet, the brass, but with no primer and no gunpowder. So there's no way this gun can go off. And this is very useful because now I have my pistol here with a magazine full of dummy rounds. I can practice holster draws as well as magazine changes with the same exact weight of real ammo, practically the same because we don't have the gunpowder. So using dummy rounds is going to help mimic what you would actually be feeling when you're doing your manipulations with live ammo. The third way to make your dry fire training more realistic is to add an element of stress. You could be moving a lot if you want to, some physical movement, then take your shots. Another easy way is to use a shot timer. This is the Shooters Global Smart Timer, which you've probably seen in other videos. There's lots of different shot timers out there, but I do like this one specifically for dry fire because it will pick up dry fire shots. And the way to use shot timers to make your dry fire more realistic is to set par times for specific exercises. So let's say you're trying to get a sub-second draw, you would set a 1-second par time on your timer, and on the buzzer, you're going to draw and try to beat that par time. So the very fact that there's a par time now and you're reacting to a stimulus, that buzzer, it will add a little bit of stress and make things more realistic, in contrast to just doing everything on your own accord, meaning you're not reacting to a stimulus. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult. The fourth tip is to use dry fire training tools that mimic the actual operation of real firearms so that you can get reps that mimic actual use. There are lots of different tools out there that will work specific skill sets, and I'm going to highlight just 2. One great dry fire tool is the dry fire mag, which you've probably seen in our videos. The dry fire mag allows you to work on trigger control in a way that closely mimics the actual feel of your trigger. So by using a dry fire mag, you're able to manipulate your trigger in ways that are more realistic. Another great dry fire training tool is to use recoil-enabled laser pistols. They come in different shapes and sizes, but there are 2 that we really like. We like Laser Ammo's recoil-enabled airsoft pistols. They're exact replicas of different guns out there, and they have a lot of different models. And by using their pistols, you aren't causing any wear and tear on your actual firearm. Now, if you fall in the category that you like to use your own firearm for actual dry fire practice, this is where you can use something like the Cool Fire Trainer, where you can use your actual firearm There's going to be blowback, so simulated recoil, and you can get a laser emitted from the barrel with every trigger squeeze. So you have two options. You can use a training pistol that doesn't cause wear and tear, or use your actual pistol, but both are going to give you that simulated recoil, which can be a reminder to grip your gun really hard. This kind of ties into the first tip I shared with you to perform your dry fire reps as if you were shooting live fire ammo. The simulated recoil will not be as powerful as real recoil, but it is going to be better than nothing, and it is going to remind you to squeeze that gun hard as if it were actual real recoil. The fifth way you can make your dry fire training more realistic is to look into getting a smokeless range. Not familiar with what a smokeless range is? Check this out. I have set up a course of fire on an actual real range using my truck here, and I'm going to shoot this with live ammo and see what a smokeless range can do. So if you're not familiar with what a smokeless range is, it is basically a virtual range that you can take anywhere, your home, office, any indoor area, and you can make any kind of course of fire that you want. This was just a simple course of fire. You saw me doing it live, and then I brought that photo in to the smokeless range. I'm using Laser Ammo's smokeless range, and I love this feature that they have where you can take anything, any photo, and you can throw it up here on the screen, add targets in any array you want. So you can really personalize your course of fire, and you can make this into stages. So I just took one simple course of fire here where it mimics exactly what I was doing with live fire. And let's say I finish these targets, it could actually pan to another image. So it's like I was shooting different courses of fire, or like a stage. So it can be as realistic as you want. Now, of course, you have to stay here. There's a little bit of movement. You're not gonna be running around, but the camera would move, or the program would move the scene for you. So I think this feature is pretty cool. And it's basically everything you need. So it'll have all the targets. You can put barrels, you can put steel plates, all of that stuff. And it times you. It shows you everything, your hit to first shot, your split times, all of that here. And so when we're talking about making dry fire more realistic, I think there's no better way than using a smokeless range if you really want to get into the scenery or the courses of fire. And I'm going to show you something else in a little bit. With these smokeless ranges, they're essentially software that you're going to install in your own laptop. You would need a projector, and they'll provide you with a camera. I'm using a short throw camera from Laser Ammo, and you will want a pistol, a laser-enabled pistol. Right now I'm using IR lasers, and this camera reads IR lasers. And I'm using one of Laser Ammo's recoil-enabled pistols, which provides that blowback. So the simulated recoil, which is really, again, another thing that will help make your dry fire more realistic. So this entire setup is like being at the range, but you're not shooting actual bullets, and you're limited with movement. But a smokeless range can do a lot more. So there's lots of different programs which can be fun, and I'll show them to you in a little bit. But in regards to how you can make dry fire more realistic, let me show you some of the scenario training that's included in Laser Ammo's smokeless range. When it comes to realistic training, there's nothing more realistic than putting yourself into scenarios. Yes, you can do force and force, but this program with the smokeless range is phenomenal. And I'm going to show you exactly what it is. There's different scenarios here. You can see disturbed man in backyard, door-to-door salesman. And it's like those old books that you may have read when you were a child or younger, where you're presented with a situation, you make one decision, you go to this part of the book, or you make another decision, you go to another part of the book. This is exactly the same way. So based on the scenario, depending on whether you shoot, don't shoot, that is going to dictate what happens in the scene. And the beauty of this is you can also make your own scenes. Just like we made our own course of fire, we can also video different scenarios. But let me show you what I'm talking about. This is kind of here what you kind of can see. There are 100 scenarios right now in the software, but of course you can add your own, customize the scenario any which way you feel like. All right, so let me show you how it works. I'm gonna pick a scenario here, load it. It's gonna take some time to load, and then it's gonna play out an entire scenario, and you have to deal with what's presented to you. Hopefully you can hear the dialogue or the sound, because I didn't have an external speaker, so we're working with the projector speaker.
part is the only thing that helps is really just a little drink of water, and if some of your blood on my
All right, so that is a scenario where we had this disgruntled neighbor and he's just not unhappy with a lot of things, and then he pulled out a knife and wanted to engage me. So this is one of the simple scenarios out there that you can be confronted with the smokeless range. And the cool thing is the scenarios change. Sometimes it's a no-shoot scenario. So if I play this exact scenario, you may not have to shoot. So somebody who is thinking they might game it, they already know what to do. Well, the judgment call might be different depending on what happens in the different scenarios. And as I mentioned, you can change this to whatever you want. And you can replay everything too, as this is part of the after action review. If you were with an instructor, for example, or maybe you want to hear what the actual threat said. So this is a really great training tool. And again, this is all dry fire with a laser enabled pistol. You can use a recoil enabled pistol as well. And sky's the limit. You can make any scenario you want. So when it comes to realism, this is an awesome option. So that wraps up this video on how to make your dry fire training more realistic. There's lots of little things you can do, and there are different products out there, training tools that'll help you have a lot more fun, make everything more enjoyable, help you improve or hone in on specific skill sets, and make things really realistic. We ended with the smokeless range, and I don't think you can't get any more realistic than that. Combining the software with the realistic tools like maybe the dry fire mag, which allows you to reset your trigger, recoil enabled pistols, laser cartridges. So there's a lot of things out there. So I hope you guys liked the video. I'll leave links to the products that I talked about down below. And if there's anything that you recommend to make training more realistic, let us know in the comment section. As always, if you like the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.